Hello, my name is Edward Arnold, and I'm here to present to the Executive Committee a financial analysis of the National Football League as well as your team, the Green Bay Packers. I'm excited to review the last 6 years of your annual reports to determine how you're doing financially as well as how you've responded to external pressures such as COVID, lawsuits, as well as player transactions and how that affects the salary cap. But first, let's get into the franchise value of the average NFL team. You can see that the average has tripled over the last 3 years, and that goes for all 32 NFL franchises. However, your team, the Green Bay Packers, ranks 13th out of 32 at $3.45 billion. Which is pretty good. And that valuation takes in several considerations, including the market, your stadium, and how well your stadium is doing on and off the field, including non-football operating activities, your brand, as well as your sport and how well you're doing within your sport and the revenue that you bring in locally. Looking at the total revenue of the National Football League, you can see that over the last 5 years, it's really spiked. This is due to the media deals, the national media deals with CBS, NBC, ESPN, and DirecTV. The NFL has been able to attract large media attention because they are the number one sport in the US. This did decrease a little bit during COVID, but that's just because of sponsorship, and merchandise sales also went down for the headquarters of the National Football League. That national revenue gets spread out between 32 teams, and Green Bay gets, let's see here, $309 million nationally from the NFL, and that is media rights, merchandise, NFL Network. A lot of what the National Football League does, they spread it out to the three teams. But let's go back to Green Bay. You can see in 2020, their revenue did decrease a little bit more than the average team, and that's because they weren't able to capitalize locally on that local revenue with ticket sales, merchandise, corporate sponsorships, whereas other teams were able to do that. Looking at the operating income, you can see how that is affected from that decrease in local revenue. Green Bay ranked third to last in operating income, and they didn't really cut their expenses too much. You can see their expenses only decreased 6%. So that is definitely something to look forward to and look on how you can adjust your operating income. Looking at the balance sheet, I think the most important thing to look at here is that the debt really stays pretty stable. The team doesn't take on too much debt, and the only time they did was they took on some more debt recently to fund the stadium in Titletown. So you can see that their debt increased over the last 3 years, as well with their property, plant, and equipment, and other assets. So they took on some more debt to increase their assets a little bit, but that isn't really seen in the bottom line. You can see on the income statement that really COVID did affect them, doing a 155% decrease in their operational income year over year. The other thing to look at here is in 2019, you can see that they only had less than $1 million in operating profit, and that was due to a $1 billion settlement on the concussion from former players on concussions. So each team had to pay $32 million, and that is seen in general and administrative expenses, which really hurt the team. So looking out for those external factors on how the team is getting affected by financially really matters to the bottom line, especially if you're going to increase player salaries. Green Bay is competing for a championship, and if they're going to be increasing player salaries, and they're going to be making improvements to the stadium and the team, you have to prepare for a loss of operations if the revenue is not there, which is tough when they are already selling out every stadium. Looking at why they're a public company, the first three stock offerings, they were on the verge of bankruptcy, and the team needed to raise money. So they really needed to use this stock offering to save the business. Whereas in the last three stock offerings were more to invest in the stadium, invest in the surrounding area to bring in more revenue. So the team has this as a lever to save themselves. But what they do have is an investment fund where all this money goes into, and that is almost $500 million. You can see that it's right here in the cash in investment. Almost 90% of that is an investment fund that they can tap into, where this unrealized losses are in this investment fund here on the income sheet. So that could go down, it could go up. They are really subject to market volatility on that. Let's go into the financial ratios. Like I said, they really have low debt and they have low equity, so that isn't really an issue. The main problem is the profit margin. This is not a profitable business, and when you're looking at the valuations of the teams, most of that comes from a transactionary type of valuation, where you're looking at how other teams are selling, and a lot of NFL teams have been selling over the asking price. So owners are getting into this business because of that transactional sale, and they're going to make their money selling the team, whereas the operating profit is not very well here in this business. So a true business CFO is not going to be able to do too much with the profit margin because of the team expenses that they have. Lastly, let's go into the salary cap management and how the player expenses really matters towards how you are performing as a team. Green Bay over this time period has been a championship contender every year, but they have been overspending on their players. I don't want to get into details on each player, but you can see that their salary cap space is only at 4 million, and they definitely rank middle of the pack the last 2 years, where they've reined it in, really just last year and now this year. But the 2 years prior, they ranked towards the bottom of the league in salary cap space. So you have to make some tough decisions on getting rid of players when you're having to pay so much money. So the adjusted cap is really kind of just what you're looking at, and then how much they're paying the players, the total cap. So overall, you really want to make sure that the business is not paying the players too much, and that you're improving the ability to get local revenue and not just rely on that national revenue as a team. Thank you.